welcome. Is it micro?
Hello? Yeah, I think it's working, yes.
Great. Well, before we begin, I guess, would you like to both, let's start with Ciara first, do a quick introduction, and then go to Luke.
Sure. My name is Ciara Sun, and I'm head of listing and blockchain investment at Huobi. We have been a world-leading crypto exchange since the year of 2013. Before joining crypto, I was working with Boston Consulting Group for management consulting in the financial services area. And after joining Huobi, I did several different things. I built our BD team and for global partnership, and also institutional business unit. And then finally, now I'm leading listing and investments at Huobi.
Hi everyone, Luke Xie from Press Start Capital. So we're a crypto gaming focused fund. And in terms of background, so I first bought my Bitcoins back in 2014, was helping Walmart with some digital strategy in 2016, and that's when I kind of started really digging into crypto and blockchain, though it was still so early. Ended up actively investing in 2017 and launched our first fund in 2018. In terms of pre-crypto background, I started my career as a strategy consultant at McKinsey and worked in various startups, including Airbnb.
Looks like we got some technical difficulties, but jumping right into this, we're seeing, again, like a little highlighted in the intro before, we're seeing this cross between now, obviously now we have two halves. We have this DeFi summit stage, all about DeFis, then we're seeing NFTs there, but these NFTs now are providing a lot, or they're actually holding a lot more value now too. Whether that's stable or not, we'll have to see. I guess jumping right into it though, I guess the first question I have is, do you see like NFTs holding or providing that stable value, and you can utilize, you see a future for that being utilized for like DeFi or DeFi yields or providing that as liquidity? So that's my first question to you guys, whether it be for GameFi, luxury items, or anything else too.
Sure, that's a great question. So I remember in 2020, the summer, it was the whole DeFi summer, everybody was talking about DeFi, and the whole liquidity on DeFi secondary market trading has exploded. And I see the same thing happen for NFT this year. So on Huobi, we listed about 18 NFT tokens under our NFT market zone. And for those 18 tokens, for this year alone, first 3 quarters, trading volume reached about $250 billion US dollars just for those 18 tokens. So that's how much this market has grown. And also for the NFT marketplace itself, for the non-fungible token side, the whole sales, I think that in this year reached to $2.7 billion, and that's grown from 13.7 million from last year, and that's just explosion that's happening. I think that's just a trend, and we can't ignore it. And I think that the thing that we should all do is that provide the support and engage with the community. And I see those amazing use cases between DeFi and an NFT. For example, one of the projects that we work very closely with is Gala Games, and it's listed on Huobi, and they're doing this amazing thing, really gapping the NFT and DeFi market with this place to learn, revolutionary engine of the whole model for the market. And they're launching their Galaverse pretty soon in about 2 weeks. I'm pretty excited to see how they can, bridging these two markets together and how much they can do in the DeFi and NFT world.
Test. Okay. Cool, my microphone's. And Luke, what's your perspective on this?
Yeah, I think I would say, overall, I think NFTs are certainly frothy, but I think for everyone having crypto experience, that's just part of the the game. And the reason I think it is so frothy is because it is still so early, I think, for NFTs as a technology and as a platform. So, when you think about kind of, digital JPEGs with provable ownership, I think that is literally version 0.1 of what NFTs can do. And I think there's a whole world of possibilities, including, kind of the boring stuff like mortgages, insurance contracts, and what we think are the more fun things like crypto gaming, right? So example being, I think we are probably only a couple years away from the Ready Player One reality where you go from one game to another and you take that same sword that you found in Diablo 5, you bring it into, let's say, StarCraft 3, you bring it into a EA game, you bring it into a Star Wars game. It's all the same item. It may look and behave differently, but it's ultimately still that same item that you spent 100 hours finding in the original game.
Great, and I think that we'll see, I'm guessing in the next like Q1, Bored Apes are going to be launching their own ape coin. So I think it's already going to start happening where we're going to start seeing, and I bet once Bored Ape launches ape coin, I think all the other PFPs are going to launch their own coin now, and now everybody's deploying their own coins. So it's going to be another new PFP coin fest that's going to happen. And now if you hold PFPs, they're going to start potentially rewarding you in their coins and tokens too. So that seems like the direction now they're moving towards. But what we also saw this year, or just like a month ago, we saw like a CryptoPunk did a flash loan sale on itself to shoot up its value as well too. So my question to that is, I guess, do you see that as a potential attack vector or like a security, that's not a security flaw, but like a flaw for NFTs to be provided for liquidity? Do you think that's like a big problem for us to, some of these NFTs could be overvalued and can be manipulated in a way? So do you think that as do you see that as like an obstacle for, rating any assets? Because that could happen to like a Gala node or a Gala Games or any other things where the value might be overvalued. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, or Luke.
Yeah, I would say, I think flash loans certainly are an interesting beast unto themselves. I think there's a lot of opportunity with them as well as a lot of risks. I think in general, NFT valuations are really interesting, right? Because I think when you think about it from like a more fundamental investor perspective, I think a lot of people get confused. The best mental model I use to think about NFT valuations is that you're really putting a value on culture. Right, so like what is the value of the top song on the Billboard 40? Right, what is the value of the most popular movie during this year? Right, what is the value of, let's say, a piece of item from that? I think that's what NFTs represent, right? Like, what is the value of being cool? What is the value of the next Yeezy sneaker drop? And why is it? Why are people kind of paying thousands of dollars for it? So I think value is a very, actually, I think, nebulous, somewhat nebulous, but more, I think it's all relative, right? Because at the end of the day, for NFTs, all you need is one person willing to pay whatever it is that you're asking for it to have that value.
So I think there are two parts, right? So we first talk about the utility token of these different NFT platforms, and then we talk about the non-fungible tokens, right? Like the punks. I myself is a punk holder, and when I bought my first punk, I was like really putting into the work of selecting the best punk that I think would be relating to me, and I would enjoy it as a piece of art that I wouldn't be really selling it for like investment, like with great liquidity on the secondary market. And I think that's a different story. And I remember last month in New York during the NFT NYC week, I went to Christie's and saw this amazing work, Human One by People, and it's sold at $29 million, I think. And like you said, I'm very excited to see how this is going to be involved in the next quarter, which was Ape launching their token, and some of these pieces of the very expensive NFT work will be maybe fractionalized by some of the applications out there, like one of our portfolio uniquely, or they will be traded again on the secondary market. I'm very curious to see. As well as for the other platform tokens like Gala Games or some of the other marketplace token like Define Arts, or people are guessing if OpenSea is going to launch their own token as well. That's just a similar valuation process that would go through for any other type of utility token out there. And when those NFTs launching their own native token, utility token, I think it's very important for them to carefully design their token economics to make it really work on secondary market, because it's just a totally different story for that.
I like you also mentioned the idea of like the fractional ownership and fractionalization, which I think we'll hop that a little bit as well. I think that's when we start seeing NFTs being broken up and also being used in DeFi and other lending as well too. But before we dive a little bit more deep into that, I guess the question kind of leading up to that though is outside of digital assets, real physical assets like art pieces or even real estate as well too, right? We're starting to see, we're not even there yet, but a lot of people are trying to think about, I guess, showing like a ownership of a vehicle or a house and turning that into an NFT, and then providing that as liquidity. Or there's like another company here called 4K. They're trying to take your Rolex watch, and then you can lock that up into a trust and provide that as liquidity too. That's still sort of super early on, but I guess what do you guys foresee that? Do you think that that's the direction that we'll be headed towards? What kind of assets do you think would be kind of the first to go for providing like, real world assets as NFTs?
So we see everybody's getting into NFTs right now, right? We look at a lot of new early projects, early stages for seed investments, and not only like you said, housing, real estate, video clips, games, fashion, luxury, they're all out there. And I think probably we'll see easier application, more growth in the luxury goods and in some of the more consumer goods area, I would say, rather than big real estate NFTs. We've seen some of the projects are going on the right direction. I think it takes great partnership and great community building, and also real holders for their packers to make this really work. And also when they're launched for their utility token, it's very important to find secondary market providers with good liquidity. Is always very important, I think, for liquidity to really catch up on secondary market for this whole NFT booming season.
So I think I would add, so when you think about just technology in general, right, a core role of technology is to democratize access. And so I think what crypto did in the early days was democratize access to wealth creation opportunity. And what NFTs have done is democratize access to art, to culture, and to collectibles, right? So, and I think, again, we're very early days in that, and I think the beauty of democratizing that access is, one, more people have access to it, and two, by making it digital, you can fractionalize it, right? And then you can do actually pretty creative things with the fractionalized NFTs, and almost come full circle by fractionalizing into something that's relatively more fungible and becoming a bit more of a token, right? But what that does again is democratize access, because not everybody can afford a Bored Ape at 35 ETH, right? But what you can afford is ownership in a portion of a Bored Ape, or you can join a DAO that already has some apes, some punks, right, and be part of that collective. And overall, I think we are kind of moving towards more of a creator and passion economy, where those will be the true value assets.
Yeah, fractional ownership is going to be coming for both like GameFi and even real-world assets too. I think we saw like recently another one, was it Red DAO? They bought like a Dolce & Gabbana dress that's like worth $1 million or $2 million. Or you got the Constitution DAO too, or City DAO too. There's so many different DAOs now, and I guess we're seeing this all come full circle between NFTs, DeFi, and then DAO is the overall arching thing that's going to be wrapping both the PFP communities, GameFi, and other assets together too, or at least the DAO concepts too. So, that does bring an interesting point too. Now that, let's say, like a house or like multiple commercial properties could be NFT'd, then that can then be provided as liquidity. But getting into like the topic of like fractional ownership too, I guess that opens up a whole new possibility for like LP providing just for like fractional ownerships of all the different real estate properties and whatnot, or even the GameFi. But love to hear more of your guys' thoughts, starting with you, Luke, on kind of like the fractional ownership piece. Do you think that is starting to get a little bit more like potentially securities area, right, potentially, and that we haven't crossed yet? Because like I know that the real estate industry has always been trying to get like a Kickstarter for real estate, and they haven't done it quite easily yet. It's still accredited investors. So do you think that it has to go full DAO, or do you think that there could be some sort of, somebody has to make that bridge to be that like a regulated entity to be able to allow for real world assets, NFTs, to actually take, you know, the next step for mass adoption, even and just buy-in?
Yeah, I would say in terms of fractional ownership and assets, you know, I think the long-term view is it's a tidal wave that's absolutely coming, right? And it's somewhat just the securities regulations being the way right now in the U.S. in particular, right? But crypto is worldwide, 24/7, 365, and I think very well you're going to see a lot of kind of fractionalized, you know, real asset ownership of real estate, of I think, you know, of cars, of what Richard is doing with 4K, of kind of like high-end collectibles. I think some of that's here today. I think when you talk about the more, you know, kind of real estate, more security side of things, the regulations will catch up eventually, and I think, you know, I think some of these things, real estate in particular, will probably kind of take off elsewhere in the world first and kind of prove that model before the U.S. green lights it.
Right, so I remember back in 2018, everybody was talking about STO, right? STO for those real estate projects. There was one in Williamsburg. I think that was one of the few successful ones that actually did that. And I remember every lawyer in New York, you know, when we have this little meetups for token compliance talk, and everybody was talking about how Reg D and Reg S is going to be so difficult for STOs going to really work and gain secondary market liquidity. I think it's going to be the kind of like the same process that we have to go through for fractionalized NFTs out there. And as for Huobi, so everything that we do, we try to be fully in compliance for every country we go to. It's going to be different cases in different countries. So Gibraltar is going to have their licenses coming out pretty soon for backing more token crypto-related business types. So they've already rolled out their exchange license. And I think the state is going to be, you know, hard, especially and not be that friendly with the whole DeFi industry too. And we all know that in the let's say like in the East market, it has been, you know, very hard with rolling out all of these applications for crypto. So, you know, my advice for all of those projects out there doing fraction NFTs, fractionalized NFTs, or like ICO related projects, just trying to be fully compliant for all the country you go to, and also with secondary market holders wherever they are based, and try to be fully compliant and always ask for a legal opinion in that case.
Great, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that too. I guess looks like we're at the cutoff here, but I guess yeah, would you like to share any last thoughts, or like I guess is there an exciting direction or projects that you guys are looking out for that's kind of headed in that direction with the crossover between NFTs and DeFi, like whether it be the real world assets or GameFi projects, or anything that you're kind of excited about for what's to come?
So this year we've have the honor to work with a lot of the great GameFi and NFT projects out there. So away from YGG, Immutable X, Scala Games, Defying Arts, and High Streets, Uniquely. A lot of the projects out there, we support them from the beginning, and we're happy to see that they're doing great in the market right now. And also excited to support them along the way, you know, in the next quarter, in the next year, in the next 10 years, to see how much this industry is going to be involved. And we are always open to talk to more projects and to support and to provide whatever resources that we can to help those projects to really grow and be more sustainable and help the industry scale in the future.
I think from our side, I think, you know, don't want to kind of harp on this again, but super, super excited about GameFi and crypto gaming broadly, because I truly believe that's going to bring in the next billion users into crypto and Web3. The reason being is I think, you know, it in terms of play to earn, kind of making the next paradigm shift from the current free-to-play microtransactions and gambling mechanics that current games have to something that's actually much more healthy for society, to just, I think, when you think about, kind of interoperability of NFT and crypto, you're going to have interoperability and composability of entire games themselves. So you see games building on top of each other, games building within games, like what you're already seeing with Roblox, even Minecraft, and Decentraland. So people have been doing this, pre-crypto, and with crypto, it's going to be supercharged and basically going from 3D to 4D chess in terms of everything you can do as a game builder, as a player, and as an investor.
So the summary I hear is that games has always been the leader a lot in the overall most front edge industries anyway. So it looks like GameFi is the next big thing. And yeah, I look forward to Roblox DeFi coming. Need to train my future little kids to turn into little degens. So with that said, thanks again for everybody, and thanks again for hosting.
Right on. Let's give him a round of applause for the GameFi degens.